burst into a Mexican bar and opened fire.
The horrific incident killed 9 people and wounded 2 others. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richie Alagao Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. urges ASEAN leader for unity amidst challenges facing the region concerning national disaster, regional security, and economic uncertainty. President Marcos Jr. sets to visit China and the United States in 2023. 4 die as tropical storm Nicole batters Florida. Like Russian President Vladimir Putin, Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky to skip G20 summit in Bali, Indonesia. And U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping set to discuss Taiwan in one-on-one meeting at sidelines of G20 summit. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. today called on other leaders of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, to unite amidst the challenges faced by the region, including natural disasters and economic headwinds. Eden Santos reports.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has appealed for unity of ASEAN member states in the face of changing tides of natural disasters, health crisis, military conflict, and economic recession. In his remarks at the plenary session during the 40th ASEAN Summit in Cambodia, the president stressed the need for ASEAN centrality, or the regional bloc's role in security and cooperation with its external partners. In a statement shared by the Office of the Press Secretary, President Marcos said it is imperative for the bloc to reassert ASEAN centrality in the face of geopolitical dynamics and tensions in the region and the proliferation of Indo-Pacific engagements, including the request of ASEAN's dialogue partners for closer partnerships. President Marcos also expressed his concern for the people of Myanmar, where he imparted his conviction that peace can only be achieved through dialogue and collaboration among stakeholders. Marcos also tackled regional cooperation to address climate change and food security, in addition to his plea for peace and conflicts resolution during the retreat session of the 41st ASEAN Summit. In a separate meeting with Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen at the sidelines of the summit, the two leaders agreed that patience is vital in dealing with the Myanmar conflict. Marcos said he agreed with the Cambodian leader that his advice for patience is the way forward. However, the ASEAN can still do more in terms of engagement in Myanmar. In his opening statement, Prime Minister Hun Sen stressed for the promotion of strong communities for all amid the challenges that threats the economy, peace, and social stability in the region. Aside from his participation at the ASEAN summits, President Marcos is also set to participate in the talks with ASEAN's dialogue partners, including the United States, China, Canada, Australia, Japan, South Korea, and India. Eden Santos reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Leaders from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN regional bloc, convene on the second day of the summit in Phnom Penh. They discussed ways to implement a peace plan agreed with Myanmar last year, which the junta has so far ignored. The bloody conflict in Myanmar following the ouster of Aung San Suu Kyi's civilian government in February last year has caused thousands killed in clashes since. Weng de la Fuente has the story.
The escalating crisis in Myanmar was set to dominate summit talks Friday between Southeast Asian leaders struggling to find a way to calm the bloodshed in the junta-ruled country. Leaders from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN Regional Bloc will discuss ways to implement a peace plan agreed with Myanmar last year that the junta was so far ignored. Myanmar has spiraled into bloody conflict since the military ousted Aung San Suu Kyi's civilian government in February last year, with thousands killed in clashes since. There is growing frustration among the other 9 ASEAN countries at the general's foot-dragging on the so-called 5-point consensus, but so far no concrete plan to enforce it. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. called for patience in resolving the crisis at talks with Cambodian Premier Hun Sen, the summit host. ASEAN has blocked junta chief Min Aung Hlaing from attending the gathering in Phnom Penh, which U.S. President Joe Biden will join on Saturday. Biden will then go on to hold a high-stakes meeting with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Indonesia on Monday. China, ASEAN's biggest trading partner, has historically had good ties with the Myanmar junta, though it has voiced some unease at the ongoing chaos in the country. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang held talks with ASEAN leaders on Friday afternoon before joining Biden and other regional leaders for an East Asia summit in Phnom Penh on Sunday. Weng de la Fuente reporting for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has accepted an invitation by Chinese President Xi Jinping for a state visit to China in January next year. The Office of the Press Secretary said Marcos Jr.'s state visit to China will take place on January 3 to 5 or 6 of 2023. The OP said the Chinese government has since confirmed the schedule for the state visit. Prior to his assumption to office, Marcos Jr. described China as the country's strongest partner, but he also promised to protect the national sovereignty by speaking to Beijing with a strong voice on issues concerning maritime security, especially on the territorial dispute concerning both countries and other ASEAN nations.
Meanwhile, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. would also be stepping foot in the United States at least twice next year. In an interview, Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Babe Romualdez, said the president is scheduled to attend the second Summit for Democracy set for June 2023. Romualdez added that the U.S. would also host next year's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation or APEC Summit. On questions if it's possible to have a state visit in the United States, Romualdez said they are in talks with the White House and they are open to the idea. The last visit of a Philippine president to the U.S. was in 2012 when President Benigno Aquino III made an official visit. The last state visit was during the time of President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo in 2003. Marcos had been in the U.S. as a president in September when he participated at the United Nations General Assembly in New York.
Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong will visit the Philippines from November 14 to 15 upon the invitation of Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, announced that 2 officials would have a bilateral meeting on November 15. Manalo and Wong are set to review the current status of relationships between the Philippines and Australia, particularly in the area of defense and security partnership, development cooperation, maritime cooperation, and people-to-people ties. They are also expected to discuss the regional issues like the West Philippine Seas and the Asian-Australian engagements. Wong's visit will be the first since her appointment last May. Recently, she also visited Thailand and Brunei Darussalam.
Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla flew to Switzerland to attend the Universal Periodic Review of the Philippines at the United Nations Human Rights Council, or UNHRC. Remulla is set to report the changes instilled by the Marcos administration in the country's justice system. Moira Encina reports.
Justice Secretary Crispin Remulla will lead the country's delegation to Switzerland to participate in the fourth cycle of the Universal Periodic Review or UPR of the Philippines at the United Nations Human Rights Council or UNHRC. The UPR is a peer review mechanism of the UNHRC where they review the promotion and protection of all the country's human rights. The Philippines UPR is set on November 14, where Remulla said he will report the ongoing comprehensive reform program of the Marcos government, which is real justice in real time. These include concrete steps to decongest the prison facilities and improve the case build-up through the cooperation between the prosecutors, investigators, and the Commission on Human Rights. Remulla will also share the achievements on the first 100 days of the administration in the area of protecting groups like migrants and children. The Justice Secretary will also give updates on how the country implemented the recommendations of the UNHRC in its previous review. Remulla said they are looking forward to hear the observations and recommendations of other UN member states. But he stressed that the Philippines is not obligated to follow all the recommendations. While in Geneva, Remulla is also scheduled to meet with the Filipino community leaders in the area. Moira Encina reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has urged Congress to review proposals to scrap the value-added tax or VAT imposed on utilities, in particular electricity. The proposal is set to alleviate the suffering of the public amid the skyrocketing inflation in the country. House Ways and Means Committee Chairman and Albay Representative Joey Salceda said the president particularly made the request on his committee. The lawmakers said he will make consultations with the Department of Finance, but Congress acted a similar proposal with water concessionaires.
The Department of Health will propose the removal of COVID alert levels in the country. The health agency says authorities should instead issue COVID guidelines to the public. Madeline Villar Moratillo has the details.
As COVID-19 continues with its downward trend, the Department of Health is eyeing to eliminate the alert levels and instead use them as guidelines for the public.
Magre-recommenda na po tayo in the coming weeks or days sa IATF na mag-decouple na po tayo dito sa ating restrictions plus yung risk level ng isang lugar. Ibig sabihin, dapat ang alert level, ginagamit na lang natin para masabi kung ano yung risk level ng lugar. Parang storm signal na lang. Pero tatanggalin na natin dapat kung ano yung mga restrictions. Dahil alam naman natin, hindi na siya appropriate at this point. Meron tayong mga restriction pa dyan na may capacity pa na restrictions, merong bawal ang ganitong sektor. So gusto natin matanggal na yon sa ating mga pinag-uusapan at mindset ng ating kababayan at tayo ay mag-focus na kung paano natin better mapapangalagaan ang ating sarili.
From November 1 to 15, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. placed 32 areas under Alert Level 2, while 89 out of the 121 provinces, including cities and the entire Metro Manila, under Alert Level 1. Under Alert Level 2, face-to-face classes, dine-in services, religious gatherings, and personal care services will be allowed to fully vaccinated individuals, while indoor avenues will be allowed to operate at 50% of its capacity and 70% for outdoors. Although there are relaxations in the policies, Health Officer in Charge Maria Rosario Vergara reminds the public to self-assess the situation whenever they go out, especially that the holiday season is approaching.
Alam po natin dapat lahat kung ano yung risk level natin, kung kailan po tayo magtatanggal ng mask at kung kailan sa tingin natin hindi dapat at dapat tayo ay nakamask.
Meanwhile, infectious disease expert Dr. Ron Chin Solante also reminds the public not to be complacent as the threat of new COVID-19 variants may enter the country like the BQ.1 and BQ.1.1, both subvariants of Omicron. Based on monitoring, both variants are said to be highly transmissible and capable of immune evasion. Even fully vaccinated individuals may still be infected with these new variants, and like the original Omicron variant, these two are not expected to cause serious illnesses. Meanwhile, in a news briefing, Vergara confirmed that those infected with COVID-19 have a high risk of acquiring diabetes. She stressed that the public should continue wearing face masks and get vaccinated to prevent contracting the virus. Madeline Villar Moratillo reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, On Point.
Coming up, at least 4 people dead as Tropical Storm Nicole batters the U.S. state of Florida. Taiwan could be the top agenda between U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping's first meeting. And Care for Humanity extends aid in Malawi. Catch the details of these stories when we return.
Daw gusto niyang maging Donya. Get married and be a Donya. May chauffeur, tsaka nasa Chideng, and I want to be in Forbes. They're ambitious.
Welcome to my vlog. Hi,
Pag-vlog ako, kailan mo naisip yun? There was a family chat. FYI, your mom is vlogging. Mom, please, don't do it. When I posted something, Mom, you're making me so depressed. With what you... Sobrang cute ako.
Pinanganak siyang ganon. Yan ang papel niya sa buhay. Not do anything but be beautiful.
Yeah. Ay, wala akong care. Hello, guys. Of course, no bashing. It's for fun. Of course.
The news continues here on Mata ng Agila International. Tropical Storm Nicole has claimed at least 4 lives after making landfall Thursday in the U.S. state of Florida. 2 of the dead were electrocuted by downed power lines, according to the Orange County Sheriff's Office. 2 others died in a car crash, believed to be weather-related. When the storm hit the coast, it was a Category 1 hurricane, but it quickly weakened and was downgraded to a tropical storm. Nicole is now battering Florida with heavy rain and strong winds. Several homes and condos in Orange County received structural damage. Some partially collapsed. Power outages left about 100,000 customers without electricity. The state has activated 600 National Guardsmen to help out. The storm is heading towards NASA's Kennedy Space Center and could disrupt plans next week to launch the agency's most powerful rocket.
Gunmen burst into a bar in central Mexico and opened fire, leaving 9 people dead. 5 men and 4 women died in the gunplay Wednesday night in the state of Guanajuato. 2 others were wounded. They are in stable condition. This is the 3rd such incident in the region where a turf war has broken out between rival gangs. Messages left at the scene suggested the massacre was gang-related.
Following the confirmation that Russian President Vladimir Putin will not be present at the G20 summit, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has also announced he will not attend. This is according to the Minister Coordinator for Maritime Affairs of the event. The Investment Minister of Indonesia, Luhut Binsar Panjaitan, who is also in charge of preparing the G20 summit, confirmed Zelensky's absence. Zelensky will be busy with Ukraine's domestic matters, as Minister Panjaitan reportedly said on Thursday, making him absent from the G20 summit. The minister called for respect for the decision and added that Russian President Vladimir Putin will not be attending the summit. According to Panjaitan, both leaders have very busy schedules and their decisions to skip the summit should be respected.
To the region.
News sources say Taiwan could be the top agenda during U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping's first in-person encounter next week in Bali. Beijing sees Taiwan as its own territory that must be united with the mainland. Yet the island believes itself as distinct and self-governing. In return, Washington has repeatedly cited its stance of strategic ambiguity. It also said U.S. would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion. China has increased its assertiveness in Asia. The U.S. has responded by restricting its access to China's computer chip technology. Despite the political tensions, China has disclosed that Biden and Xi's meeting could happen at the G20 sidelines. Earlier, Biden said he hopes to work together with China if there are conflicts. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian also confirmed the heads of China and U.S. maintain regular contact in various forms. Zhao also said China attaches great importance to the proposal of U.S. to discuss red lines to reduce the potential conflicts after soaring tensions in Taiwan.
美方应同中方相向而行，妥善管控分歧，推进互利合作，避免误解误判，推动中美关系重返健康稳定发展的正确轨道。
Russian President Vladimir Putin signs a decree to counter the destructive ideology spread by the United States. Putin's document calls for the preservation and protection of the values that allow the country to defend and strengthen its sovereignty. It also aims to preserve the people of Russia and develop their human potential. RT News reports that the actions of Washington, other unfriendly nations, transnational corporations, NGOs, and media outlets pose a threat to traditional values. Putin's decree states that the traditional values rooted in Russia's cultural and historical experience have enabled the nation to effectively face new challenges and threats while keeping its identity intact. The document lists cults of egoism, impunity, amorality, and denial of patriotism and family values as some of the ideologies that are alien to the Russian people. The decree also stated that these threats should be countered through policies targeting the youth, education reform, and media outlets that promote traditional values.
During the Democratic National Committee at Howard Theater in Washington, D.C., U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris thanks campaign workers after the midterm elections. She says democracy is intact.
Our democracy is intact. Yeah. And when democracy is intact, this is what it looks like. And here's the thing, some Democrats won and some Republicans won. That is what happens when more than 100 million Americans participate and vote in free and fair and open elections. That's what happens.
The battle for control of the House and Senate is still up in the air, but President Biden and Vice President Harris celebrate the success of their Democratic Party in fending off a projected Republican landslide in a stormy economic climate. President Biden says no matter the election results, he is ready to work with Republicans and that the American people expect the same from Republicans to work with the president.
Regardless of what the final tally showed, I'm prepared to work with Republicans. But the American people have made it clear. They expect Republicans to work with me as well. And folks, I'll always be open to any good ideas, whether it's Democrat or Republican, to move the country forward. But I've also made it really clear that if Republicans try to repeal the power we just gave Medicare to reduce prescription drug costs, I will veto it and not let it happen.
Attention is now on the next big election, the 2024 presidential race. Americans might just see a Joe Biden-Donald Trump rematch. With 209 seats so far, Republicans appear poised to secure a slim majority in the 435-seat House of Representatives. Control of the Senate, however, may come down to an early December runoff in the southern state of Georgia.
D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser wins a re-election, beating out Republican Stacia Hall, Independent Rodney Red Grant, and Libertarian Dennis. The D.C. native is taking on her third term, and she is one of only 2 mayors in district history to win 3 consecutive terms. Jeff Sanidad reports.
Muriel Bowser has been elected again as the mayor of the District of Columbia. This will be Bowser's third term serving the district as the mayor.
We've all, I know that I did, went through an interview process with DC residents, mine for nearly 8 months this time, and I learned a great deal. I heard their challenges, their concerns, their best wishes, their big ideas. We were grateful to advance from the primary and even more grateful that I have the opportunity to serve for a third term as mayor of the most dynamic city in the world.
After her win, Bowser calls on district residents to submit what she calls big ideas for the next 4 years.
So today I want to announce to everybody where they can go to follow our transition, and that's going to be at together.dc.gov. And we're asking for anybody that has a big idea to submit that big idea. Later in the month, we'll all get together for a summit where we will discuss in person and through various means how you can submit those ideas and work with the leaders who will help us get there. So that's together.dc.gov.
She encourages Washingtonians to be part of the district's comeback and invites them to work at the DC government. Open positions can be found at together.dc.gov/jobs. Bowser also announces that a diverse coalition made up of district government employees and leaders from outside the government, which will help her gather community feedbacks as part of her third-term transition team. Jeff Sanidad, Washington, D.C. Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
China relaxes some of its hardline COVID-19 restrictions on Friday. The notice says quarantines for inbound travelers will be cut from 10 days to 8. It consists of 5 days in a state isolation center and 3 days at home. The new rules say inbound arrivals are still required to undergo 6 nucleic acid tests. They are also not allowed to freely set foot outside during the quarantine period. Instead of 2 tests, the new rules provide that travelers are only required to show 1 negative COVID test within 48 hours of boarding flights to China. Local reports say the Politburo Standing Committee, chaired by President Xi Jinping, met Thursday to rubber stamp the new and limited COVID measures. This minister stepped down on Friday after facing criticisms regarding his low-profile description of his job, who also gave approval to the death penalty. Yasuhiro Hanashi, who has been in the post since August, admitted that he had spoken carelessly. Hanashi's resignation this Friday serves as an additional weight to Minister Fumio Kishida's government, as it already faces downward approval ratings. For his part, Kishida took responsibility for formally appointing Hanashi by delaying his departure until 1 a.m. for a summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, in Cambodia, in order to appoint an official in replacement for Hanashi. Despite international criticism, Japan is counted as one of the few progress countries to keep the death penalty in public support for a capital punishment.
Peruvian police fired tear gas as clashes erupt at a protest in Lima in support of leftist President Pedro Castillo, who is the target of 6 criminal investigations and 4 alleged graft and for plagiarizing his university thesis. According to a supporter, the government has been elected and now fought by the people in every corner of the country. The supporters want Castillo to know that he has all the support to close that Congress, even though he is not allowed by the government to lead.
Nosotros estamos apoyando al presidente porque se ve que es un buen hombre que trata de cambiar la situación de sus hermanos peruanos. Estamos ya demasiado el Congreso obstrucciona y quiere abarcar a cada rato al presidente.
Coming up, Care for Humanity extends aid in Malawi. Care for Humanity in Thailand supports programs for seniors. And Iglesia ni Cristo extends help in Northern Ireland. Catch the details of these stories when Matanang Agila International returns.
Real sa social media pagdating sa mga produktong pampaganda, pampaputi o iba pang mga skincare products. Bakit di na lang ikaw ang mamuhunan at magbenta ng mga produktong ito para magkaroon ka rin ng sariling negosyo? What if you can be a reseller for only 2,200 pesos and you can get to sell skincare products that are backed by research and tested in clinical trials? Find out more as we speak with the President and CEO of Diana Stalder by Dermaline, Ms. Dina de la Paz Stalder.
Ang pinagmamalaki na aming brand is whitening. Lagi ninyong basahin if there is a clinical trial, evidence-based ang ating produkto.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Anong tawag sa asong hindi natutulog? Herman Shepherd, walang tuluga. Hindi tao, hindi hayop, hindi bagay. May pakpak lumilipad.
This portion.
Malawi has the highest percentage of people living in poverty among the countries in the African region. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused more problems and suffering for its citizens. The Iglesia ni Cristo's Care for Humanity extended its help to 4 major cities in Malawi. From Malawi, here's Chisomo Sangala for the details.
Malawi, a small country in southern Africa, has the highest percentage of people living in extremely poverty. The INC extends its concern to the needy all throughout the world through its Care for the Humanity program, reaching Malawi, which is among the poorest country in the world. Here in Malawi, Foresight hosts the aid giving program of the Iglesia in Cristo, the city of Lilongwe, Mzuzu, and the town of Salima and Mulanje.
We started preparing the area, the stage where we will distribute out to parks. We also prepared the warehouse. We prepared the stats to issue out to those who are going to benefit, to the beneficiaries, so that it becomes orderly on the day.
I'm very happy to receive this aid because it can help my family, my children. Because of this pandemic, there is so many problems here in Malawi. So we thank you so much because you know you love us so much.
As the poverty continues to persist, the Iglesia in Cristo carry on with its mission to help those who are in their need, because it is a commandment of God written in the Bible.
In the situation class, people are not take care of
there's physical needs only, but also there's spiritual needs. So also inside the Church of Christ, there is no discrimination. So the main focus in the Church of Christ is to reach out to the poor, those who are in need.
The people here in Africa, they suffer from different levels, extreme levels of poverty. It's such a great blessing to them to have this kind of activity. They feel the genuine love of the church administration inside this church, which causes them to want to know more about the church. And so many more people are joining the Church of Christ every day here in our district, all because of the help of our Lord God.
We are very thankful because for this activity, especially during this time, there is a poverty. Very thanks to you, Brother Eduardo Vimanalo, because you remember them and you show your love. You love us very much.
This is the first of its own kind to see a church like INC coming to Malawi during this time of hunger and offering such type of help. And it's my little desire as one of the leaders in this community.
From Lilongwe, Malawi, I'm Chisomo Sangala for the Worldwide Bring Up Samama Mayan.
The care for humanity of the Iglesia Ni Cristo is really far-reaching. Let's now go to Thailand, particularly in the Byung Yitho municipality, where the members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo are united in the desire to alleviate the needs for the elderly's basic necessities. Let's hear more from Feli Ace Hulaton from Thailand.
คือเรื่องของผู้สูงอายุเนี่ยก็คือเกิดขึ้นในทั่วทั้งเอเชียโดยเฉพาะประเทศไทยเนี่ยก็จะเกิดขึ้นรวดเร็วเพราะว่าในช่วงนี้ก็คือมีผู้สูงอายุปีละ1 ล้านคนที่ครบอายุ60ดังนั้นเนี่ยในช่วง10 ปีเนี่ยก็จะมีประชากรผู้สูงอายุเนี่ยเพิ่มมากขึ้น
For 3 consecutive years, the Church of Christ members have supported the Byung Yitho municipality in its program for the elderly through its Care for Humanity program. This is in response to a rapidly growing elderly population, a population that, according to research studies, is projected to increase to 33% of the total population by 2040.
We keep supporting this community for almost 3 years already. First, because we have so many brethren that works in this community. And the office of the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation is located in this municipality. That's why we used to conduct this project in this community to continue to support to the people of this place and also to care for them, especially those who are already old. And we will keep on conducting this project in the time to come.
จากอัตรา 12% เป็น 15% เป็น 17% คาดว่าปีหน้าจะเป็น 20% นะครับดังนั้นเนี่ยการที่เราเป็นท้องถิ่นนั้นเราก็ต้องเตรียมตัวรองรับประชากรผู้สูงอายุนี้จะเห็นได้จากหนึ่งก็คือสิ่งที่สำคัญที่สุดก็คือว่าเขาจะต้องมีความสุขทั้งกายและใจดังนั้นเนี่ยสิ่งที่จะทำได้ก็คือเราจะต้องจัดตั้งศูนย์พัฒนาคุณภาพชีวิตผู้สูงอายุอันนี้สำหรับพวก Active Aging ก็คือพวกนี้จะมาออกกำลังกายทำกิจกรรมหลายๆ activity เลยก็ให้เขาเนี่ยไม่ติดบ้านให้ออกมาติดสังคมมาใช้ชีวิตกับเพื่อนกับอะไรให้มีความสุขขอบคุณมากครับสวัสดีครับ
The Care for Humanity program of the Iglesia Ni Cristo is being led by the Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo Vimanalo. This aims to extend our help and support to the community where we are in. So we send our help such as food, clothing, and other basic needs of the people, even in the far-flung places.
The award-winning municipality is best known for its STRONG program, an acronym which stands for Socialization, Treatment, Recreation, Opportunity, Nutrition, and Group. Recognized for its efforts in tending to the elderly, the Byung Yitho municipality was awarded the Healthy Aging Prize for Asian Innovation in 2021. The goods donated by the members of the Church of Christ included sacks of rice, bottled water, alcohol, masks, and many others, which will all be donated to the Medical Services and Rehabilitation Center in the hopes of alleviating the elderly's needs for basic necessities.
รู้สึกดีใจอะค่ะที่ได้มาเข้าร่วมกิจกรรม Care Humanity ของมูลนิธิเฟลิกซ์ไวมานาโลในครั้งนี้เพราะว่าไม่ใช่ว่าเราเป็นคนไทยที่จะมาช่วยคนไทยด้วยกันเองแต่ว่าเราเป็นสมาชิกหนึ่งในของโครงการคริสตจักรของ Church of Christ ค่ะก็เลยทำให้เรายิ่งมีความภาคภูมิใจแล้วก็ดีใจที่เราได้มีส่วนร่วมในการทำช่วยเหลือคนมนุษย์ด้วยกันในครั้งนี้ค่ะขอบคุณค่ะ
The activity once more delivered a strong message, not only to the members, but most importantly, those who are outside of the church, that the Church of Christ truly cares for the community, and that they can always be counted on whenever help is needed. From Rangsit, Thailand, Beling Solaton for the Worldwide Lingap sa Mamamayan.
British people have felt the crunch not just from the effects of the lingering COVID-19 pandemic, but also the effects of the global economic crisis. The high inflation that drags the prices of commodities to go up made them rely more on food banks. As part of Iglesia ni Cristo's charity work, the Global Care for Humanity effort of the church extended its help to residents of the Northern Ireland and the United Kingdom. Let's hear more from Grace Rivera.
Unprecedented times. In addition to the disastrous impacts of the pandemic, we are now also facing the crushing effects of other global issues, resulting in widespread poverty and financial insecurity.
I noticed there's a care for humanities that this church is serving the community. Of course, we live in a very hard time. Many people are not able to meet their needs. For the gesture that the church is giving to the community, I think it needs to be recommended.
I was very humbled to see, such a lot of generous people.
In the midst of a worsening economic climate felt by almost every household, the price of basic necessities continues to rise. This has led many people to rely on food banks and some households resorting to skipping meals, which is one of the devastating effects of the ongoing inflation. The Iglesia ni Cristo Church of Christ in the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland has donated thousands of goodwill packages to members of the public in their respective areas. Today's Open Door event is one of many simultaneously held charity work by the Iglesia ni Cristo congregations all over the world. Preparations for this event took place several weeks ago. Sorting hubs were established in Stratford, London, Manchester, Newport, Wales, and Belfast. This event is an example of one of the measures to reach out to the communities and make a difference through the Iglesia ni Cristo's Global Care for Humanity project.
This shows love, care, compassion. To care for your neighbors, that's what Christ wants. And that's what you are doing.
It makes people closer together. I can see positivity, positive energy. People are so happy.
But this one calling everybody from the community to come and get something they can cook and share at home is something that does not often happen. And we thank God for it and for the church.
When you see this humanity handing out food to those that really desperately need it, especially now.
From the United Kingdom, I am Grace Rivera for Mata ng Agila International Trusted, connected, on point.
In other stories, people's fear of catching Ebola in Uganda is almost as contagious as the infection itself. The fear has been sparked by the reappearance of the highly contagious virus. The epicenter of the infection is in the central part of the country, in the districts of Kasanda and Mubende. Both are under lockdown with a dawn-to-dusk curfew, ban on personal travel, and a closure of public places. Funerals are sparsely attended. Only close relatives show up. New cases are being reported in the capital of Kampala as the disease spreads its way through the country of 47 million people. So far, Ebola has claimed 53 lives out of more than 135 cases.
Poultry farmers in France have been ordered to keep their birds indoors in an effort to contain an outbreak of avian flu. It was just last week that England had ordered farmers in that country to do the same. The flu has infected nearly 50 flocks of birds in France since the beginning of August. More cases have been found in backyard flocks. Across Europe, bird flu has ravaged poultry farms, resulting in nearly 50 million birds being culled. Bird flu poses little risk to humans. Properly cooked poultry and eggs are safe to consume.
With hundreds of children around the globe dying from poor sanitation-related diseases, the United Nations calls for the installation of sanitary facilities worldwide like toilets in observance of World Toilet Day. The UN says access to safe water and sanitation is a basic right. Joanne Soriano reports.
Days before World Toilet Day, UN Chief Antonio Guterres sends out a message to shine a light on the vital role of safe toilets in all aspects of sustainable development. The United Nations says over 700 children die from diseases caused by poor sanitation, hygiene, and unsafe water. 3.6 billion people still suffer the indignity of living without a safe toilet. Guterres urges on World Toilet Day to focus on the impact of inadequate sanitation systems on groundwater, how they spread human waste into rivers, lakes, and soil, polluting the water resources under people's feet. He says we are seriously off track to keep the promise of safe toilets for all by 2030. And this is a crucial indicator in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The UN chief says this issue has been neglected for too long as it happens out of sight, underground, and amidst the poorest communities. He says safe toilets and sanitation improve nutrition, help manage scarce water resources, and promote school attendance and work opportunities. This particularly for women and girls. With every dollar invested in toilets and sanitation, fivefold is repaid in lower healthcare costs and increased productivity, education, and jobs. Guterres urges world leaders to act with urgency and ambition to deliver on the basic human right to water and sanitation for all people everywhere. World Toilet Day is observed on November 19th. Joanne Soriano, New York, New York. Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Coming up, race car sells for $13 million. U.S. is the first World Cup team to arrive in Qatar. And the annual Geneva 20-kilometer run brings together running enthusiasts. Catch the details of these stories when we return.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka nang mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. May lalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
We now welcome you back to Mata ng Agila International. It is a case of someone who has a lot more money than they know what to do with. An unidentified buyer has paid a record $13 million for a race car. The car is a Ferrari on which Formula One legend Michael Schumacher won the 2003 World Championship title in it. It was auctioned off by Sotheby's on Wednesday in Geneva. The final price was reached after a 40-minute bidding war won by a buyer who participated by phone. The previous record was held by another Schumacher driven Ferrari, which sold for $7.5 million in 2017. Schumacher raced 9 times in the car sold on Wednesday. Since suffering severe injuries in a skiing accident in 2013, he has not been seen in public.
U.S. players were the first World Cup team to arrive in Qatar 10 days before the tournament starts. The U.S. is playing in the finals for the first time in 8 years and will be in one of the most politically charged games when they take on Iran on November 29. U.S. players were on a Qatar Airways jet from New York that was among the first flights to use a new part of Hamad International Airport. Team USA starts Group B against Wales on November 21st, followed by England on November 25th, and then a crunch match against Iran. This has become one of the hot tickets in Doha because of the political rivalries between the two countries. The U.S. has played in 11 World Cups. U.S. placed third at the first tournament in 1930, famously beat England 1-0 at the 1950 World Cup and reached the quarterfinals in 2002. Now the team reached every finals from 1990 until 2014, but failed to get to Russia in 2018.
Now let's head over to the rainy city of Seattle in Washington State, USA, where the first Vietnamese-inspired coffee house offers one of its bestsellers, Ube Latte. Yes, ube. Here's Rex Dulay enjoying a cup.
Fall is the perfect time to really enjoy a cup of great coffee. Probably one of the best out there in my hometown, Seattle's first Vietnamese-inspired coffee shop, Coffeeholic House. Coffeeholic House is the first Vietnamese-inspired coffee house in Seattle. They got their start in South Seattle in the hip, foodie-friendly neighborhood of Columbia City. Even in the midst of the pandemic, they were able to thrive by community support and serving one of the best Vietnamese coffees out there in the city. Today, we'll be sampling some of their most popular caffeinated treats in their second and latest location, the cozy yet bustling North Seattle neighborhood of Greenwood. So first off, we're going to start off with the hot drinks. We got the most popular Coffeeholic Dream. It's a Vietnamese coffee with a salted cheese foam. And this one is the Purple Haze. It's a ube latte. Ube, purple, delicious. Reminds me of my culture in the Philippines. Let's start with the Purple Haze. All right. Ube flavoring has really strong in a good way. in a good way. Earthy, potatoey, starchy. But what's really cool about this is it's not too sweet, which I really appreciate. All right, now this is the most popular drink. It's the Coffeeholic Dreams. Vietnamese coffee with a salted foam on top. How we're gonna conquer this. All right, here we go. I really like that blending of the salt and the coffee and the sweetness of it. It matches, oh my gosh, so perfectly well. It's a wonderful blending. And what's this on top? Forgive me if I have foam on my mouth, but it's when you have that saltiness and the sweetness, wonderful like merging of all these flavors, which I appreciate so much about this style of coffee. Not just like bitter and that's it, then you have to just dump sugar and cream. It's like having the bitterness, the sweetness, the saltiness all interplay with each other to form wonderful combination that just works exquisitely well. I think what I appreciate about Coffeeholic is that they embrace their Vietnamese heritage, but are willing to take culinary risk and push coffee to the next level. Rex Dulai, Seattle, Washington, Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Go on.
Well, I have two things to say. First is where to find ube latte now, and second, Friday.
Yes, I was going to say, have at it. Come on. Well, to help you start your weekend, here's a quote from Edward Morgan Forster, an English author. We must be willing to let go of the life we have planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us.
You know, sometimes we get so obsessed with the life that we plan for ourselves that we fail to see what's right in front of us.
Exactly.
We fail to see the good things that's ahead of us.
And when things such as the COVID-19 pandemic hits, you are not ready for that because you have everything all figured out.
It derails all your plans and you fail to move on.
That's right. So it is important to know what to do with what life throws at you.
That's right. So please do remember that during the weekend. That's a wrap for tonight and this week's news, but the news continues online. So please do catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Rich Yalagao Flores saying happy weekend. Take care of yourselves. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.